Willis. Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is today. Let us make sure these tubes connect themselves all across the fruited plain of the interwebs before we get into the business on the day. And boy, there is a lot of business out there. In fact, we just watched, you may have been watching it elsewhere, the astronauts return to Earth. And here is what it sounds like.
We can see those
right now.
SpaceX is go
the
for
boats
recovery personnel to approach. Expect personnel alongside
are getting them
in the next
out.
few minutes.
We can see those fast boats. We weren't kidding when we said they were fast. While it
Coming
does take
in.
about 30 minutes for the main recovery vessel to make its way over to the capsule, these fast boats will be doing a couple of things simultaneously. A couple of them are going to be working to retrieve the parachutes that you see in the background there of this drone shot. Those parachutes will be retrieved from the ocean surface. We want to make sure we are able to pull those out. The recovery vessel there closest to the spacecraft is going to be performing some safety checks. We can see there they're using an instrument that is basically working to detect if there are any hypergolic vapors or fumes that are still residing in and or around the Draco thruster nozzles or outlets. The hypergolic fuel, which is necessary for on-orbit burns to maneuver the spacecraft. Unfortunately, those hypergolics are unable to be breathed. They are toxic, and so this team here is doing those initial safety checks to make sure that it is safe for the rest of the recovery team to approach the spacecraft.
All right, so amazing stuff. We'll keep our eye on that one. Of course, we've got a bunch of business to attend to, and when they emerge, we will come back on it and celebrate and welcome them back officially. But that will be about 20, 30 minutes from now. So amazing. Glad they're back on the planet. They were up there for quite some time. So good stuff there. Now, we've got a bunch of other business to attend to today. So let me give you a quick preview and then we'll zoom in for further detail. But we got this one case. This is brought by the Jane or John Does versus Elon Musk. And it was a big one. You probably saw it in the headlines today, coming out of Maryland. And the judge who wrote this is Judge Chuang. And he is basically reinstating USAID, okay, saying that everything that Trump and Elon have done have been a result of an illegal, unlawful appointment of Elon, saying he should have been appointed to an office he didn't, and so therefore everything that he touched, even though it came through Marco Rubio, the appointed and confirmed Secretary of State, saying it all should be brought back. So basically undo everything that has been done, coming from another hack judge, this one out of Maryland. So we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about what the solution is, because now people are talking specifically about impeachment. In fact, President Trump has now come out and used that phrase. And we have the Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court, John Roberts, who came out and was trying to scold him, but John Roberts is very wrong on this, and we'll come back to it. But we're going to hear from Trump. We've got articles of impeachment that have now been submitted. This came over from Congressman Brandon Gill. We'll read through the full set of articles so we can see what is coming. We've got more support from other people, and it's going to get exciting. So we'll see what happens as more momentum escalates around this issue. Mike Lee is commenting on Chief Roberts, and I want to go through the case because there was a ton of activity. We were here yesterday listening and reading through the proceedings and reading through the filings, but there was a bunch of stuff that came screeching in today, including a conglomerate of states who have now joined in on the fun. So South Carolina, Virginia, and 24 other states are supporting Trump in their emergency motion for a stay pending appeal, saying Trump is deporting these terrorists from our country. Have you gone mad? We must get them out of here. And so 24, 25, 26 states, that's over half, are now joining in on it. Now, this is going up to the Court of Appeals in the D.C. Circuit. So we'll talk about that and get up to speed on the case. Got more reaction from Newt Gingrich. Tim Burchett's coming up. Pam Bondi, we got a clip of. And Mike Waltz saying, these guys are lucky they just got deported. All right, these are designated terrorists and others. So could have been much worse for them. So they should be happy about it. So we'll talk about that. Then we got a Fani Willis update because Fani owes 50 G's, man. And she probably has plenty of cash. We know she stores it under her mattress in between her cruises to the Bahamas and to Norway or wherever she went. But this was a fun filing, and congratulations to Ashley Merchant from the Merchant Law Firm who secured this victory. She was celebrating on X. Of course, make sure you're following her, Ashley Merchant without the T, on X. So we'll read through that and more. So we got a bunch of fun stuff to get to today. We'll keep our eye on the astronauts who have returned and will be emerging soon. Looks like they're capturing a whale or something. Is that Shamu? What's Shamu doing here? All right, so we got a bunch of good stuff to get to today, my friends. One thing that we're not getting today are 80,000 pages of JFK files, which we were promised yesterday. We've been waiting all day long, refreshing. Are the files here yet? Are the files here yet? Answer, no, they're not. So the question, of course, where are the JFK files? President Trump came out yesterday and told us to our faces that they were going to be released today at 12 o'clock. They have not been released today. He had Caroline Leavitt standing in the wings saying, oh yeah, they're going to get dropped tomorrow. Any redactions? No redactions. We would see it all. Well, they said that yesterday. Said that tomorrow we'd be getting the documents. Well, today is tomorrow, and we have no documents. They said it'd be coming out at 12. It is now long past that. I have not seen any documents. If anybody has seen more JFK files, we'd like to see them. But they have not been released, and I think this is a real big problem. And we speculated some time ago that if we don't get these files, Epstein files, JFK files, RFK files, and more, then there's a good chance that the only thing that you conclude is that they're not in control of these agencies. Trump is not in control of these agencies or these files. And Tulsi Gabbard was responsible for a lot of these things. So it is quite concerning. And if you're President Trump and you have given a direct order and you promised the American people this yesterday, and these people have not gotten your files delivered and released to you, it's a pretty big problem as far as I'm concerned. So hopefully those get dropped by today or tonight, because it was a direct promise on this one. You're getting them tomorrow, which is today. We'll see. So we don't have them. If we do have them, of course, we'll cover them, but we have not seen them thus far. So not good. But all right, so we got a bunch of great stuff to get to today. Before we get into it, you know what we got to talk about, right? Getting healthy, because it is important that we are prepared in case we need medication and care. And of course, our friends at the Wellness Company are reminding us that hospitals and schools are on high alert. Got health officials kind of freaking people out. We got measles cases and more. But real protection doesn't come from the government, as we know. It starts with you. And here's what they don't tell you. A strong immune system is the best defense. And that's why the Wellness Company's elderberry gummies are packed with antioxidants, vitamin C, zinc, to help keep your little ones healthy and resilient as well. But if pneumonia or an ear infection occurs, you can be prepared for everything. The kids' medical kit comes stocked with chewable amoxicillin, 5 other essential meds, so you're not scrambling if things take a turn. And for adults, Dr. Peter McCullough recommends the Wellness Company's Natural Immunity Blend to keep the immune system ready for battle. If more serious complication arises, then the Medical Emergency Kit provides critical medication for early interventions. And so you can make long, expensive hospital waits a last resort. Don't get caught off guard. All it takes is filling out a digital intake form. Within 1 to 2 weeks, your kit's going to arrive at your door. And so you can get prepared by going to twc.health/Robert. Use code Robert when you check out. You'll save $30 and you'll get free shipping. These kits are only available in the United States. twc.health/Robert. And thanks to the Wellness Company for sponsoring the show today. Now, we got business to attend to. And so let's start off with this garbage that have come out from Judge Chuang, an Obama appointee. Don't want to spend a ton of time on this because I do believe it's going to be appealed very immediately. In fact, I wanted to take a quick look and to see if that had already been dropped courtesy of the Trump administration, but it does not look like that has hit yet. So we'll refresh that here at the conclusion of this just to see if that is up to date. But here's what we've got today. A federal judge bringing back USAID. Judge Chuang, he is writing out of the District of Maryland in the lawsuit brought by the J. Does against Elon and Doge and Trump, saying that everything that Elon and Doge has done is invalid and must be reversed. This is from one judge who is saying that he is now in charge of the executive branch, essentially, and he gives us an explanation as to why. Now, we'll add him to the list of impeachment judges who are clearly overstepping their prerogative to try to issue an injunction against the executive branch to stop the executive branch from doing the will of the American people. And there is enough momentum now that Congress people are introducing articles of impeachment against his colleague in another district in the District of Columbia called Judge Boasberg to impeach him. So we'll see if that comes next for this judge. But let me share with you what he wrote coming out against Elon, Doge, and the American people who elected these folks. Here's what the judge wrote. Since it was established when Trump took office in January, Doge has sent teams of personnel to numerous federal departments and agencies, taking control of their computer systems, and in many instances, taken the lead in terminating numerous contracts and employees. And every time we read these, it's almost enjoyable. It's like, oh yeah, that's right. They did do that. That was awesome. Now, in the case of the United States USAID, Doge and its leader, Elon Musk, writes this judge, have also played a leading role in actions taken to shut it down and to dismantle the agency, which have included permanently closing its headquarters, taking down its website, engaging in mass terminations of grants, personnel, and more. I know, it's great. We were here. It was fun. A group of USAID personnel are now suing, saying this is unconstitutional because, of course, these are civil servants who are doing, public good around the world. And so they have to sue you, the American people, who have voted to say, we don't want you doing this anymore, and we can't afford it, frankly, and you are sinking the entire ship. So you have to get off the boat now, or else we all drown. They're such good people that they're suing us to get their jobs back. Isn't that nice of them? What a bunch of good people. So specifically, and I don't care what they're doing, AIDS doctors or health counsel or whatever it is, who make up their fake names. Specifically, JDOs 1 through 26 are currently or recently terminated losers, my opinion, have filed a civil action against Elon Musk in his official capacity and Doge and more. They cite Article 2, Section 2, and the constitutional principles of separation of powers and the appointments clause, right? Saying Elon is exercising too much power, so he should be appointed to an office. And since that office doesn't exist, the appointments clause, which governs appointments, should apply to him. But it doesn't apply to non-offices, right? Clearly, if you read it, but let's see if they get to it. So these fired USAID grifters have now filed a motion for a preliminary injunction, which is fully briefed. And the court now finds that Trump and Elon's unilateral actions to shut down USAID likely violated the Constitution. And the motion is granted in part and denied in part. So we'll fast forward to the end in a second. But here's some more background. On November 12th, 2024, President-elect Trump, incredible, announced that the great Elon Musk, working with Vivek, will lead Doge, and they're going to clean up the government. Then he issued an executive order on January 20th, establishing Doge. Doge sent teams of Doge people with 4 employees to multiple agencies around the government. Then Trump identified Musk as the leader of Doge, held press conferences, was on the Sean Hannity show. Trump signed an order creating Doge, right? So he's going through all of his public statements. I've created Doge, you've heard of it, which is headed by Elon Musk, right? These are Trump's own words. They're saying Elon's in control. So in discussing Musk's role, Trump then stated that after he signed an executive order, they're getting the things done. Elon's going hog wild, just cleaning up all this grift. So then on January 20th, Doge team members moved into the OPM. They start canceling contracts. On January 24th, they said, hey, 420 million of impending contracts have just been evaporated. They take numerous actions, the judge writes, without any apparent advanced approval by agency leadership. Okay, that is nonsense. DOJ has been advising. The agencies themselves have been approving these things. And we saw this chain of documentation emerge back during other cases, especially with Judge Amir Ali, that judge from Ontario, who tried to say that DOJ was making the decisions and canceling in that case when they didn't do that at all. In fact, Marco Rubio specifically read through every single contract. He was up all night long, drinking water all night. Cancel, 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 constantly. It was amazing. Thank you, Marco Rubio. We love Marco. So it's his agency, the Department of State, that canceled them. And they have the documents. They filed them in a companion case that we read here 2 weeks ago. Political appointees were reportedly caught off guard when on February 7th, DOJ executed cuts to billions of dollars of funding to National Institutes of Health, the people who are responsible for COVID, in my opinion. After DOJ and their team members reportedly terminated personnel at the Department of Ag, Department of Energy, Nuclear National Security, then they had to rescind some people and more. And they're so animated about that. You know, he had fired people and hire them back. Like, so what? That's great. That happens all the time. Okay, you're going to make mistakes when you're firing 10,000 people. So as long as they have value, they can come on back. But elsewise, they're gone. It's pretty clear. Now, similarly, at the cabinet meeting, Musk also admitted that they fired and they mistakenly canceled funding for Ebola. They turned it back on. Judge, relax. These people are like, if you make one mistake at all, you can't do anything ever again. So which is why they don't deny anyone any money anywhere, anytime, right? The government just keeps printing it and handing it out hand over fist because it's much easier than saying no. On February 20th, DOJ reportedly put a $1 spending limit on government credit cards. Yeah, good luck buying anything with that. Not even a pack of gum after Biden got done with our economy. So this action predated executive orders, and Trump, even after that email went out saying, you better respond, then Musk posted on X that Trump said, you got to get more aggressive. Then another email was sent. Respond. What are the 5 things you did? And so the judge is so mad. On January 20th, in addition to establishing DOJ, Trump also signed another executive order, and that was pausing USAID money. Then Rubio issued an order, and then all these people sued. Then on January 27th, DOJ went in. They were asking about contracts, and they could see and delete emails on behalf of every USAID user. Okay, so they got root access to all the systems. They're like, what were you doing here? Oh, yeah, trans festivals in the Congo. Great. That's what this is contracts for? No, you're done. On Thursday, White House officials, January 30th, they learned that some other people had been accessing the payment systems, right? Everybody was going into the portal like, give me my money. I want it now. Then they began freezing the funds. It's incredible. Amazing work, everybody who was involved in all of this. By Sunday, 2,000 email accounts had been deactivated, including the email accounts of these plaintiffs, these whiny grifters called J-Doe, J-Doe 5, and 6, and 3. Others resigned. After midnight, Musk hosted a broadcast. He says, yep, USAID, that he would shut it down, right? And they're saying, well, you can't shut it down. He further stated, so to be clear, in shutting down, we're in the process of shutting down USAID, right? So Elon went on saying, he can't shut it down. Elon sounds like he's in charge. He's talking like he's in charge. Trump is talking like Elon's in charge. Then in February, USAID dumped 606 employees, put them on paid leave, sent a letter to Senate Foreign Affairs Committee, said, guess what? We're canceling even more. That's your notice, Senate. Enjoy. Then the following day, 1,400 more gone, administrative leave. Then others like Musk posted pictures of the building and the sign coming down. And we took great joy in that. Kamala Harris was right about that. There is joy. That same day, in American other cases, the court issued another TRO and this building's gone, right? Border Patrol just moved in. So President Trump stated the Future Investment Initiative at another event. Trump said, yeah, we're continuing to go. We're cutting. Then there were other announcements that came out. Then there were rifts. And so it was just like a bloodbath, right? They're all sitting there. Oh, we're getting cut all over the place. So the plaintiffs are 26 current or former employees who want their grift to continue. Beginning on February 2nd, multiple plaintiffs lost all access to their systems. Other plaintiffs who posted about it freaked out. They said, we're losing everything. We got no way to pay bills. Our internet's going to get shut down, our cell phones. And we're in dangerous situations. We're on administrative leave. Some plaintiffs expressed concerns about this. And then Musk made disparaging comments. He said, these people are grifting losers, okay? And they're Democrat operatives who have been stealing money from the American people for their own personal gain. How dare he say that about these public servants? We're suing you. In the motion, they sought a narrow emergency relief. The judge is going to go through. He's going to say they've got standing, right? We've talked about this before. Why are they even suing? Why can this lawsuit even survive? The contracts were canceled. They want the contracts to be back on. Their relationship with the federal government is terminated. If they have a contract problem, they should file it in the Court of Federal Claims. They've been terminated. Here, they argue that Doge having access to their personal information is not an injury, and there's no other things that you can address here. And the judge says, well, of course there's an injury. They were terminated. Others were stationed in high-risk areas. And these are injuries. And so they satisfy that. And you guys did it, right? We can trace it back to Trump and the federal government. Doge did it. They went in. They demanded access to classified systems. Doge had complete control over all of it. And since you did it, the record supports that the USAID officials were not actually independent actors. And even if they were, they would just do whatever Elon or Musk wanted them to do. Right? So Trump installed his people, and Trump is acknowledging that Elon is doing these things. And so it's traceable to Trump. So I can redress this so they have standing. Here, the relief includes stopping Trump from canceling these folks. And so they satisfy that. Now, then we get to the appointments clause. They say, defendants have not disputed that Musk has been duly appointed either as a principal or inferior officer. They say that Musk is the de facto U.S. administrator, according to these fired people. But Musk was not appointed or went through Senate confirmation. And they say he should have been because he's acting as an officer. Here's why. Musk is exercising significant authority, saying that they exercise significant authority. And of course, we know, right? It's advising to Rubio. Rubio is exercising the authority. They're upset that Elon is providing Rubio with the data. But Rubio made the decision, and he's empowered to do that. But the present record does not support the conclusion that USAID officials made those decisions. No. It looks like other people actually made the decisions, in this case, Elon and more. In fact, Musk specifically stated on X that it was time for it to die, talking about USAID. We're shutting it down. So it sounds like Elon was really the puppet master controlling all of these things. And that is significant authority. Going through a bunch of case law, where there is no regulatory requirement to shut down an agency, the court says if you shut down an agency, ordering the permanent closure of an agency headquarters, right? So I guess that's it. I was asking, well, the agency's not shut down officially. Like there are still USAID. There's still people and contracts that are getting money. So the court therefore finds that the action of closing the headquarters, because the agency is not closed. So if the judge were to come and say, you can't close this agency, only Congress can. Well, they didn't close the agency. It's still there. They're still writing checks. You want them to cut those too? They can. It's not closed. We kind of wish it were. I do wish it was closed. Why we have to keep it open is, I think, for legal reasons, because of Congress and because of precedent. They don't want to open that can of worms just yet. But the headquarters, this judge says, oh, okay, because they shut the building. So that requires an officer of the United States, somebody who is Senate confirmed, to do it. So Musk, because he closed the office and because he's tweeting about it, he should be an officer. He's not an officer. And he has no formal authority to do any of this, but he did exert actual authority, right, to do it. He's got no formal legal authority, but he's doing an end run around the appointments clause. If a president could escape appointments clause scrutiny by having advisors go beyond the traditional role of White House advisors who communicate with agency heads to instead exercise significant authority throughout the government, the appointments clause would be reduced to nothing more than a technical formality. It's not true at all. It's the same thing as a chief of staff. Or what about a wife advising the president? Does the wife who gives the president advice and does things like when Hillary Clinton was doing her little healthcare nonsense, talking to everybody about that crap, does she need to be appointed? Or what? Everybody who closes a government building needs to be appointed as an officer? No, it's ridiculous, obviously. This judge is trying to find an excerpt that will allow him to thread the needle here. Here, the issue is about Doge. And Elon is making these decisions, but it's not, right? Rubio signed the orders, and it all came down through the official chain of command. They say Doge is more akin to independent counsel in the Donziger case, and Musk is the de facto administrator. And so his public statements, along with Trump's statements, say that he's really in charge of this whole thing. And the record supports the conclusion that Musk, without having been appointed as an officer, exercised significant authority. And so they're going to win on the appointments clause claim. And we don't need to address the other stuff, saying that they eliminated USAID. Elon said USAID is a criminal organization. It's time for it to die. Then they physically closed the headquarters. They shut down key functions of the agency. The plaques were removed. Okay, that's how mad this judge is. They removed the plaques from the building. Permanently closed. Employees no longer permitted to enter. The name of the agency was removed from the facade, and they're reconfiguring the space for Border Patrol. In addition to the physical shutdown, the website's down. 2,000 emails are down, and more. In the early hours these activities were occurring, Musk was on a live stream. He said, well, USAID is just a ball of worms. It's got to go. It's beyond repair. Everyone agreed it should be shut down, but it has not been shut down. It's still open. And it's been reduced, but he calls it the dismantling, and it's sidelining almost its entire workforce. Check it out. It's amazing. 2,100 employees on leave, another 2,100 who could have been placed on leave, and more. Days, reduction, riff here, more notices. People getting let go all over the place. And as stated by Morocco, nearly 800 contracts have been terminated, which includes some of these people as well. The shutdown was a pause, and nearly $68 billion have been saved. And as a result of these, USAID appears to be unable to perform its core function as a basic governmental agency. Jay Doe has stated in her declaration, so this person suing, said that the payment system has not been accessible or functional, and payments for completed work are not being made. And they had access to classified systems, and so the judge is reading all of it. And finally, it's likely that USAID is no longer able to perform certain statutorily required activities, saying you have to do certain things, and Musk has talked about elimination, and so I can conclude that based on all of that, that USAID has been effectively eliminated, right? So the agency is not shut down. It's not. They're still making payments. Rubio, to his chagrin, I think they just paid the National Institutes for Democracy or whatever hack agency that was. Like, they're still paying. But the judge says, well, effectively it's been eliminated, so therefore now I'm going to make up what has happened so I can rule against you. So then under the legal standard, he says the president only has certain power. The court considers whether Congress has authorized this course of conduct. Did Congress authorize this to be dismantled? Saying Congress has made clear that they want USAID to be an independent agency. Well, that's illegal, okay? There are no independent agencies. They exist under a branch of government. So this judge should read the Constitution. It was first created by an executive order in 1961. Yeah, by JFK, which means we can undo it by executive order. Congress funded it. Congress required the president to submit to Congress a reorganization plan, right? And Congress, well, you can only make these changes if we approve it. No. That is asking you to participate in the execution of the law. That's not your role. You're the legislature, not the executive branch. So Congress has not granted the president direct authority to reorganize any of this. Doesn't matter. And, he doesn't even want to get into that. He's going to break it up into separation of powers and then basically say that they can all commingle their powers and that the executive branch is bound by congressional statute, not even by the Constitution. The Constitution usurps congressional statute. They say also by asserting constitutional authority for dismantling USAID, they say it's Article 2 power. They say foreign affairs power and much more. But the case law here, they say, doesn't necessarily apply. The primary actions here are about the closure of the headquarters. So it's about the workforce. It's not about foreign policy, says the judge. It's about domestic employment. This is not conduct of foreign policy or foreign governments. This is a local business decision, which he's basically admitting that it's a domestic issue, which should be brought in the Court of Federal Claims. Now, although such functions necessarily have some connection to foreign policy because of, it's USAID, under their theory, Trump would have unilateral policy power to do whatever he wants and cancel everything and more. And so all this being said, trying to dismantle USAID is against the separation of powers, saying, I guess he's encroaching on Congress, even though JFK made it in the executive branch. So there will be irreparable harm. These people are all crying foul. We're going to lose everything. We're all going to die if we don't get our federal government grift continuing to help fund our public service. There's going to be irreparable harm, reputational harms, okay? They're going to be offended. J. Doe 22 is going to have reputational harm. In my opinion, these people who consider their reputations to be valuable are dismantling it right now, right? Like as soon as we find out who these folks were, first of all, I think they're cowards for proceeding pseudo-anonymously. Like if you really have a good reputation, you want to stand by it and fight for the work you're doing, why don't you bring out your name? Why are you proceeding pseudo-anonymously if you're such heroes doing such heroic work? Public servants. Won't your work stand up for itself? And listen, I'm not in favor of cutting people who are doing things that provide a return on investment for America. If it is good for America in enhancing our reputation, in enhancing our security, in enhancing our financial status, in bringing us resources, in increasing a relationship with an important ally, million things. All we got to do is just say, Rob, here's what it does. We spend $1, we get $5 of value because of this X, Y, and Z. Oh, great. We'll keep you. So if J. Doe is doing something like that, come out. Let us know. But it seems like you're not. And you're hiding like cowards. And your reputation, you're hiding in the shadows because you know it's pathetic. So that's all obviously fake. Your reputation, in my opinion, is probably trash. So we'll see. We don't even know who it is. But disparaging public statements about USAID. And if USAID was doing any good at all, I really am caring less and less by the day because all of these other people are such whiny, pathetic babies who are suing to go against the will of the American people who've said, we cannot support you anymore. You're too fat to be on this boat. You have to step off. You're going to kill us all. They say, I'm not moving anywhere. I'm on this boat. There's a port right here. Get off. No, I'm not going. We're all going to die. They don't care. And they're suing now because they care about America. So generally, a claim that an employee's reputation would be damaged is not enough. But in other cases, the Supreme Court recognized where there could be a stigma about those living with HIV. We had the AIDS doctors who, of course, were in here. Yeah. So it could be that this is offensive to them because Musk called them evil, right? And I don't know, people who have good reputations, who are fighting for causes they believe in, I think would proceed under their own name if they were honorable people of integrity. Evil hides in the darkness and in the shadows and sues the people who have been funding their crap for years. The next day, Musk also publicly stated in a lengthy discussion that the USAID was an apple with a worm in it. But it's even worse. No, it's not an apple with a worm in it, okay? It's just a ball of worms. It's hopeless. It's beyond repair. You've got to get rid of the whole thing. And I'll tell you what, I trust Elon much more than Jane Does who are filing pseudo-anonymous lawsuits, saying you basically got to get rid of the whole thing. He also said USAID had been engaged in anti-American activity. I think that's absolutely true. We've already seen that. Where such a prominent member of the executive branch publicly described their place of employment in a brazen way that characterizes its agency, not only in misconduct, but as a criminal enterprise from top to bottom, right? This judge is like, Elon is so mean to these pathetic baby cowards who are suing that it's casting doubt on the integrity of those who worked there. So this judge is going to protect the integrity of USAID bureaucrats. Can you believe that? federal court. You don't talk mean about them. Wow. At a minimum, they likely diminish the value of the experience of working at USAID in the eyes of future employers. I hope they never get hired again, honestly. I mean, if they're doing like amazing work and they got caught up in this thing, maybe it's probably like 1%. But yeah, I mean, it should be, oh, you were a Democrat hack. You worked for USAID who was trying to steal the American taxpayer dollar and suffocate our entire nation. Yeah, that's right. And that's why we like to cover this case, just to make sure that these opinions are etched in for all eternity. So that these people, and by the way, all they would need to do is come out and stand up for something that is valuable for the world and for the country. And we would say that's worth keeping. But they don't do that. Why haven't they done that? With lasting impact, because of such personnel necessarily rely on their experience, any final termination might impact them. Now, this reputational injury does not appear to be merely speculative. Just think about this in your position, okay? Where's a federal judge going to come out and fight for you if you get fired from your job and your reputation? It's ridiculous. They're such coddled, pathetic babies that they have to sue and demand employment and can't even stand behind their own names after however many decades they've been here. Finally, they've argued that the disclosure of sensitive information will cause irreparable harm. Here, they're concerned about public disclosure of their names, and they're worried about their security. Yeah, I know. We know. They're always worried about their security. Nobody's going to cause any violence to them, and nobody's advocating for that. We want transparency. We want to know what they've done. So here they say DOJ members have had a lack of respect for security clearance requirements and more. And so in balancing the equities, we have to grant this. So they write, as to the injunction, we've got a couple orders and rulings. Let's see what the judge wrote. In conclusion, the court finds that Trump's actions to shut down USAID on an accelerated basis, including its apparent decision to permanently close the headquarters without the approval of a duly appointed USAID officer, so it's like a technical thing, likely violated the Constitution in multiple ways, and that these actions harmed not only plaintiffs, but also the public interest, and deprived the public's elected representatives of Congress from advising on when and how to close this. And so a separate order will issue, but the preliminary injunction will be granted in part and denied in part, signed by hack Democrat Judge Theodore D. Chuang. And he, of course, was appointed by Obama. So let's see what the order says. He wrote the opinion. Here's the order. And we have not seen an official appeal come out. It says the motion is granted and issue. Okay, so very short order. But he gave us, let's see what the injunction says. All right, so defendants are enjoined as follows, says Trump and Marco and USAID shall reinstate access to email, payment, and everything, including the contractors, within 7 days of this order. All right, so everybody has to get rehired from this judge. Sick. Says, they shall not disclose outside of USAID any personal information, says that they shall not take any action related to reductions in force, employee terminations, terminations of contracts or grants. Everything is coming back. Don't take any action without the express authorization of a USAID official. Within 14 days, written compliance that they are back in their building. Okay, put the sign back on. Amazing. Put the sign back up. Reoccupy the headquarters. Unless you can ratify the decision to permanently close it with the acting administrator of USAID. So it's like, I guess the judge just wants someone else to check a box. This is so pathetic. And pursuant to 65C, an injunction bond, $100. It's going to cost, I don't know, how many millions of dollars to bring back all these government grifters and all these contractors who are just more and more useless by the day. I think every single one of them, unless they disavow. You can come out, you say, look, I was USAID, but I disavow USAID. I'm a good person. I disavow all of this, and I accept the will of the American people. There may be an opportunity for reunification with those individuals. But the people who are still standing behind USAID and suing all of us because they're entitled to jobs and money and our taxpayer dollars indefinitely without any oversight or recourse at all, well, they're dead to us, or to me. So you can see it says this is the judge, Theodore Chung, now dropping that one, another blue Democrat, taking control of the executive branch. That judge is the president now. So that's fun. Now, let's talk more. What can we do about all of this? Hack judges trying to take over the country. We've got Chong, Boasberg, Reyes, and many, many more. Trump now coming out saying it's time to impeach. President dropping this on True Social, saying this radical left lunatic of a judge, Judge Boasberg, who we're going to talk much more about in a minute, including his family, is a troublemaker and agitator who was sadly appointed by Barack Hussein Obama, was not elected president, the judge. He didn't win the popular vote by a lot, like Trump did. He didn't win all 7 swing states, like Trump did. He didn't win 2750 counties to the losers, 525 counties. In fact, this judge didn't win anything. I won for many reasons. In an overwhelming mandate, but fighting illegal immigration may have been the number one reason for this historic victory. I'm just doing what the voters wanted me to do. This judge, like many of the crooked judges I'm forced to appear before, should be impeached. We don't want vicious, violent, and demented criminals, many of them deranged murderers, in our country. Make America great again. Paul Saipula sharing an image of this judge, Judge Boasberg. And this case, of course, is involving the alleged Tren de Aragua gang members who were deported over the weekend. And the judge said, I want answers from you. I want to know specifically what you have done and when you did it. Who was on the airplane when I issued the order? When did the airplane land? How many of these people who were subject to my orders did you get out of the country rapidly? And Trump, as you can see here, has already appealed this order. So lots of activity happening here just in the last 24 hours. And so we'll break it down. But Judge Boasberg is now under the action of impeachment. Congressman Brandon Gill, who is a representative over from Texas, said, I just introduced articles of impeachment against radical activist Judge James Boasberg. He's guilty of high crimes and misdemeanors and should be removed from office. Says, be it resolved that James Boasberg, Chief Judge of the United States District of Columbia Court, is hereby impeached for high crimes and misdemeanors. And the following articles still need to be voted on and then brought over to the Senate. But this is just the submission. Says these are exhibited by the House of Representatives against James Boasberg. Says he is the District of Columbia judge, and that the judge, in violation of his oath in office, did knowingly and willfully use his judicial position as a judge to advance political gain, doing this while interfering with President Trump's constitutional prerogatives and enforcement of the rule of law. Saying the Constitution provides that the House of Representatives shall have the sole power of impeachment, and that civil officers of the United States, including federal judges, are subject to impeachment and removal. And further, the separation of powers under the Constitution grants the president broad authority over the executive branch, including authority to protect the nation as part of his role in ensuring the administration of laws, including the Alien Enemies Act and the policies of the United States. Now, explaining the Alien Enemies Act commits to the president's sole and unreviewable discretion, meaning it's not justiciable. You can't sue over this. The president has the power to do it. You can't sue him for doing it. including the power to determine whether an invasion has taken place. If the judge can say to the president, actually, there is not an invasion, well, guess who is the president then? The judge. As the Supreme Court has explained, for a court to second guess a president's determination under the Alien Enemies Act would be assuming, writes the articles, the functions of the political agencies of the government, right? The court would become the executive branch. And it's not for the courts to question, quote, the president's determination under the Alien Enemies Act because these are matters of political judgment for which judges have neither technical competence nor official responsibility. That's the Ludke versus Watkins case, or Ludek versus Watkins case. Yet, notwithstanding this binding precedent from the highest court in the land, Chief Judge Boasberg has done exactly what the Supreme Court commanded not be done. You can't substitute your judgment for the president's, and has illegitimately tried to substitute his own judgment for that of the elected president of the United States, thereby usurping the role of the executive and unilaterally taking upon himself the power and the authority of the president. Through his conduct in which he violated his oath to the Constitution and duty of impartiality to the people of the United States, Chief Boasberg has abused the powers of his judicial authority, having engaged in actions that prioritize political gain over the duty of impartiality, we'll talk more about that, owed to the public and litigants as follows. Here's what he's done. Judge Boasberg has prevented President Trump from removing aliens associated with Tren de Aragua, a designated foreign terrorist organization, from the United States. And two, second charge, Boasberg required President Trump to turn around planes mid-air that had aliens associated with Tren de Aragua, which is a designated foreign terrorist organization, said, bring them back. I want them in my home. Now, this conduct, writes the congressman in these articles of impeachment drafted and submitted, jeopardizes the safety of the nation, represents an abuse of judicial power, and is detrimental to the orderly functioning of the judiciary. Using the powers of his office, Boasberg has attempted to seize power from the executive branch and to interfere with the will of the American people. In so doing, Boasberg used his powers and his position to engage in actions that overstep his judicial authority. By making a political decision outside the scope of his duties, he compromised the impartiality of our system and created a constitutional crisis. And so wherefore, Boasberg is guilty of high crimes and misdemeanors and should be removed from office. Articles of impeachment for Boasberg, a good start. And I saw a great post yesterday, courtesy of our friend on Locals, G-Men, who was referencing Andrew Branca, who's saying, you know, there's another idea here. There's a thesis that you don't actually have to go to the impeachment level to meet that high standard where you might need 2/3 of the House and the Senate, where you can just remove them for bad behavior and just do it by simple majority of Congress. We'll see if that idea catches on, but wanted to shout that one out to Andrew Branca because the Constitution does say that. So that is underway. We've also got more questions about this judge because the judge, of course, has conflicts of interest. And here's what has been discovered, courtesy of Pepe's grandma over on X, Bad Kitty Unleashed. We're going to repost this one, so it's right at the top of our timeline if you're joining us live. But here is what Bad Kitty Unleashed has shared today. Breaking expose. The Boasberg twins are the sisters of Judge James Boasberg. We've got Melissa and Margaret. And both of those girls, I know you're going to be shocked, are linked to far-left organizations. Amazing. And Melissa worked with Susan Rice's brother. You remember her? She was from Obama. But first, here's the story. Arabella Advisors was sold in 2020, and the Concentric Equity Partners is now the majority owner. And Concentric is also a partner where Melissa Boasberg works. So they're all in it together. Now, between the twins, between the two of them, they've worked with Bain, Arabella, Atlantic Council, Booz Allen, Pritzkers, Reid Hoffman, basically everybody. She wants to go through them. Says, start with Margaret. I want you to notice the Bain and the Atlantic Philanthropies are the Atlantic Council. They're connected to both. Margaret is a partner at the Bridgespan Group for Philanthropy. It also runs the Bridgespan Social Impact website. Margaret also worked at Bain. Bridgespan was spun out. They had experience in pro bono services. Her husband currently works there, and they've worked with everybody, right? La Raza, Atlantic Council, Ford, Pritzker's, Wikimedia, ADL, Rockefeller, and more. Melissa works with Susan Rice's brother, John Rice. Works with Atlantic Philanthropies, which is Atlantic Council. Also works with Greylock, Reid Hoffman, Arabella, Bain, Bill and Melinda Gates. And here's what you know about the two of the MLT leaders, okay? These guys also work on these operations. So here's Margaret Boasberg, partner at Bridgespan, direct service organizations in several fields, public health, worked extensively with mental health, leading nonprofits, right, and philanthropies in this field with nonprofits and more. Currently leads our public health area of expertise. Isn't that nice? What an amazing person, partner over there. So brother of the judge, waging war against Trump, is in service of their cabal, right? Of their clan. They're all Democrats, right? The reason the judges get these judicial positions appointed by Obama, appointed by Biden, is because they're good soldiers. Says Arabella went first, right? So I would encourage you to go check this out from Bad Kitty Unleash. James's nickname is Jeb. Probably sisters, might not be, but certainly goes all the way back. Partners at Bain. And you think about USAID money, right? And the Trump hatchet that is going to these Democrat institutions. You start to see where these conflicts of interest emerge. So great thread from Bad Kitty Unleashed. Read the rest of it. I just reposted it over on X. Be sure to follow her and support her work and her great reporting. But of course, we're talking about impeachment now with all of that happening. Rep. Barry Moore is also joining in with Brandon Gill, saying it's time to remove activist judges who look to advance their own agendas instead of adhering to the law. And Mike Lee is responding to this post from the judge, Chief John Roberts. After Trump posted that this judge and others should be impeached, John Roberts of the Supreme Court came out and sent this. For more than 2 centuries, it has been established that impeachment is not an appropriate response to disagreement concerning a judicial decision. The normal appellate review process exists for that purpose. You go, oh gosh, John Roberts, are you serious? For more than 2 centuries, that has been the process. You know what also has not been the norm for those 2 centuries is a district level judge cutting off every single action of the executive branch, issuing nationwide injunctions. The judge is saying the normal appellate review process, that normal appellate review process is not normal right now. It's being gamed. Judges are issuing orders, eliminating executive orders nationwide beyond their jurisdiction, covering all the other states. Someone sues in New York, they do it for New York. If you want to make the geographic argument, say, well, just limit it to New York, limit it to this area, right? Then you can sue in those areas. Then the circuits can set the law for different areas. Then the Supreme Court can come in and decide for the entire country. But the Supreme Court is not doing any of that. So what is happening is we have Democrat judges with daughters who are in on the grift, in my opinion, who are mucking up the entire system. And for John Roberts to come out and blame Trump for these judges is undermining his own credibility. And by the way, the U.S. Constitution doesn't say anything that impeachment is only appropriate after a Supreme Court hears a case. If judges are acting illegally and aiding and abetting criminals because they've got conflicts of interest or because of other improprieties, you don't need to wait until the Supreme Court says it's okay to file impeachment. If this judge is committing high crimes and misdemeanors that satisfy the political standards in Congress, that's good enough. The Constitution doesn't mandate we go through John Roberts in order to get that done. And every time he posts something like this, he is undermining the court's credibility. And the court has only their credibility and their legitimacy. It's all they have. They don't have the power of the purse. They don't have a military like the executive branch. So when they start blaming the other branch for their own ineptitude and their own delay in action, they're wrecking the only tool that they have. And John Roberts is a fool for not acting to save the credibility of the judiciary by rectifying this very big problem that's underway right now. So this case is up on appeal. President Trump, of course, has submitted this to the Court of Appeals in the District of Columbia. They said, hey, dear court clerk, the government was ordered today to provide additional information after the hearing. So we had the hearing at 5 p.m. yesterday. Now, at the hearing, this judge asked several questions that could have required the disclosure of sensitive operational details. And this raises serious national security concerns. And so following the hearing, the judge ordered the government to address a series of issues, including by declaration to provide answers like this: whether and in what form. I want questions about the flights answered. Now, the district court is thus continuing to press for details that are sensitive and in many cases not relevant to any issue presented. The order and inquiries continue to underscore the need for a stay pending appeal in this case. We need a stay and the urgency with which such stays are needed. Notwithstanding the district court's blithe suggestion that the government can easily provide details, even classified details, about our operations with foreign terrorist organizations, we have to guard against national security. And so, Court of Appeals, this court should have a chance to rule on the government's request for a stay. Don't make us answer these questions about these plane trips, and don't make us disclose national security information to this hack judge. Respectfully submitted, Drew Ensign from Trump's DOJ into the Court of Appeals in Washington, D.C. Now, they're not alone. We've also got 26 states now joining President Trump to fight against the judge who is ordering Trump to provide answers on the deportation of Tren de Aragua terrorists who were sent back down to El Salvador. Trump and the states saying this is necessary, a stay is necessary, so that we can further develop the case and protect national security. Here's what's been submitted in the Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia. 24 states, starting with South Carolina and Virginia, now asking for a stay. This is on appeal, and here's what they are writing. All right, these amicus states are the following. Bunch of red states: South Carolina, Virginia, Alabama, Alaska. You see the list. Arizona's not on there. All right, each state is directly impacted by criminal activity perpetrated by violent gangs. And each state has an interest in protecting its citizens from these criminals. So that's why the states support robust actions against gangs like the notorious Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua, who are wreaking havoc within our borders. Writing to the Court of Appeals, the states say, Trump's recent executive order uses constitutional and statutory authority to deport Venezuelan citizens who are members of Tren and are not American citizens or lawful permanent residents. The same day a complaint was filed challenging this action, and without any briefing from the federal government at all, a lone district judge certified a class of non-citizens in custody affected by the order and then issued a nationwide TRO, barring the administration from removing foreign terrorists regardless of any threat that they present. So the states obviously say this is ridiculous. This should be stayed for two reasons. First, the TRO undermines the security of the states. Tren de Aragua has ravaged innocent citizens across the country, and the states finally have a welcome partner in the presidency, finally, willing to fight for the safety and the security of the American people. But when Trump endeavored to remove violent gangbangers from the United States, a single district court judge who was working with gangbang lovers, the gangbanger ACLU lawyers, sued And then they stopped Trump from carrying out the mission anywhere all across the country because the gangbangers got certified as a class. Allowing Trump to continue its operations and criminal activities in the amici states. And it looks like the astronauts are back. Hey,
the
so there they
astronauts are back. Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams splashed down in the Gulf of America about an hour ago after 9 long months in space.
All right, so they're back. I think we missed the emergence.
Is live from an exciting day and early.
All right, so they're back. All right, anyway, so they made it. So they're good to go. All right, so that's good. Now, Trump's, the states say they made it. Shout out to our astronauts and Elon. Ooh, that's cool. All right, cool. All right, so we're back. Now, the public interest weighs in favor of the safety and the security of the American citizens. Okay, we should deport them. It's better for the country than keeping them here. Second, the TRO fails to properly evaluate the sources of the president's authority for his recent actions. Trump acted according to both constitutional and statutory authority. And at this confluence of two significant fronts of authority, the judiciary should have been reticent to issue a nationwide injunction. They at least should have heard from the government. So, and that error alone calls for a stay of the TRO, saying this Judge Boasberg, undermines the security of the states. The president's proclamation describes clearly the brutality of Tren de Aragua, and that comports with what the states have been experiencing. And so according to Trump's constitutional authority, he issued a proclamation, and they're true. Says these people are doing eliminations and kidnapping and extortions and trafficking and more. And their objective is to harm citizens, and Maduro is trying to destabilize America. Now, the states and our experiences bolster and support Trump's findings on this point. The states and our citizens have been subject to escalating acts of violence committed by these people. In the past year alone, TDA members have murdered American citizens, seized property, and violently attacked police officers. In particular, their horrific murder of Laken Riley necessitated the passage of the Laken Riley Act. And they reportedly terrorized an entire apartment complex. They used it as a hub of illegal activities, including for abuse of minors. And they've notably given a green light to go and attack law enforcement officers. All of this is being reported. Now, their presence is felt far and wide. Last month, ICE officials arrested multiple members during a routine daily operation in South Carolina. They've been linked to Virginia as well, and a bunch of other states. And indeed, they're at the very doorstep of the nation's capital in North Virginia. Well, maybe they can go to this judge's house and have a conversation with him and his family. As long as TDA is continued to allowed to operate throughout the United States, the gang will rain down a deluge of criminal activity all across the country. And our citizens are actively being harmed by this. So in response to these harms, the states have attempted to protect and will continue to protect their citizens. After all, the core function of the state's police powers is health and safety. And we will do this to defend our citizens from these illegal aliens. And states and localities can act with immigration partners. Many of the states have done that, have tried to take the fight directly to TDA. But states are constrained when they're trying to counter threats posed by transnational criminal organizations. States are not in the position to negotiate with foreign governments. We can't go after Maduro. And so the states welcome the powers of the president and the commander-in-chief to protect the American people using the prescribed powers afforded to that office. But by issuing a universal TRO without the benefit of even hearing from the states or the Trump administration, failed to consider the balance of the harms and should be reversed. So, Court of Appeals, reverse this. This judge is undermining national security. Trump issued a proclamation under the Constitution and then also provided independent bases for removing these gangbangers from the country. Article 2 says the president has substantial authority over foreign affairs and national security, and the Supreme Court has recognized the plenary and the exclusive power of the president when it comes to international relations. Doesn't require Congress to act. And as the court has also explained in another case from 1952, It is pertinent to observe that any policy towards aliens is vitally and intricately interwoven with policies of foreign relations, foreign powers, and more. And so Trump was acting pursuant to another statute passed by Congress. The authority under that statute is uniquely ill-suited for judicial review. As the Supreme Court claimed in the other case called the Ludecky versus Watkins case, full responsibility for the just exercise of this great power may validly be left where Congress has constitutionally placed it. It's in the power of the President of the United States. The founders, in their wisdom, made him not only the commander-in-chief, but also the guiding organ in our foreign affairs, entrusted with vast powers as it relates to the world. Each of those fonts of authority are independently compelling. Working in tandem, however, they provide a strong basis for executive action against TDA. When the president acts pursuant to an express or implied authorization, his authority is at his maximum, yesterday's zenith, apex. The district court should have been circumspect in granting the nationwide TRO under these circumstances, and so its failure to do so should be remedied. And so you should stay this court's TRO pending appeal, signed by 26 states, all seen here. And so shout out to these AGs who are fighting on behalf of the American people, while the Democrats and the gangbang ACLU lawyers are working hard the opposite direction. Now, Newt Gingrich also is commenting on Roberts. Says, if Chief Justice Roberts wants to minimize the attacks on out-of-control appointed left-wing district court judges abusing their role and claiming to be able to overrule the elected president of the United States on management details that are clearly within his role as defined by the Constitution and the Federalist Papers, then he should intervene and overrule these absurd power grabs. The Chief Justice can defend the court by overruling bad judges before the executive and the legislative branches start acting against them. The burden is on the Chief Justice, not the president. Mind your branch, John. The judiciary is your branch. If your judiciary starts acting the fool, then the other branches have no choice but to use their powers under the Constitution to check them. So get your people in order and stop criticizing the other branches when you can't even manage your own household. Pathetic. Here's Tim Burchett talking about this today, saying, I don't care what the judges think, says Tom Homan. Tim Burchett says, CNN, you guys are fighting for terrorists and for government grifters. No wonder nobody's watching your network anymore.
War. Many of those individuals stayed in the United States,
I think that is NASA. Thank you, NASA. And let's see what else. Hey, that was Lectern guy. We just saw him on X. Who the heck were we with this fella? It is Tim Burchett. And why is this audio not playing here? Okay, let's try a different video to see if this plays.
They have a command.
All right, so it might just be that video. Okay, Tim Burchett had a lot of awesome things to say, but now we've got Pam Bondi. Here's what she says about the Alien Enemies Act.
Well, Janine, the Alien Enemies Act applies to a situation just like this. And it's interesting, people argue that it's such an old law. I think an old law is a virtue, not a vice. Think about that. Our founding fathers knew exactly what they were doing, and it applies to a situation just like this. Trans de Agua, they are a foreign arm of the Venezuelan government. They are organized, they have a command structure, and they have invaded our country. They are raping, they are murdering U.S. citizens, and they are coming here in mass numbers. And Donald Trump invoked the Alien Enemies Act just like he should, and he has gotten rid of them a lot. There are a lot more to go. And, you know, there are 261 reasons why Americans are safer tonight, because 261 of those monsters have been taken out of our country. They're one of the most violent organizations in the world, and they had invaded America, Janine.
All right, so Pam Bondi now out explaining that there will be more coming. The president is at the apex of his power, And that is good news. We'll keep our eye on what's coming next from Pam and the rest of the team. All right. Now, the reason I'm pausing for a moment, because apparently the JFK records have just been dropped. All right, well, let's talk about them. All right, here they are. Let's see. Here's what we've got so far on the JFK files. So these puppies just dropped. Let's see what's inside, shall we? Here we are. Fresh out of the oven. The JFK files released. These were what Trump promised us, and they are fresh out of the oven. Dropped March 18th, 2025 release. Some of us were getting a little bit nervous because the clock was ticking on the day, and Trump said they would be dropped. And of course, here they are. We're glad they are delivered. But here's what we've got. From the National Archives website, archives.gov, research JFK release-2025, writing, the March 18th, 2025 release says, in accordance with President Trump's directive of March 17th, 2025, that we heard yesterday straight from Trump's mouth, all records previously withheld for classification that are part of the JFK assassination records collection are released. The National Archives is partnered with agencies across the federal government to comply with the president's directive in support of the executive order that ordered these released. As of March 18th, the records are available to access either online at this page or in person via hard copy or on analog media formats at the National Archives. As the records continue to be digitized, they will be posted to this page. So they may all not be out yet, is kind of what I am reading is being implied here. Or on analog media formats. So let's see what we've got. Section 10 of the JFK Assassination Records Collection addresses information withheld under court seal or for grand jury secrecy. And Section 11 of the Act addresses records with tax return information subject to 6103 or deeded to the government from a private citizen. The table below displays the file names and links to all the documents released on March 18th. They're sorted by record identification form, RIF number, which is included in the file name. And as you can see, we've got a lot of entries down there. Now, there are other releases. So we've got a 17, 18, 21 release, 2022 release, 2023 release, and more. But let's start at the top. Ready? We've got 1,123 entries. Now 1,122 to go. Let's see what we've got. Aha! Let's see. 2025 release under the President, JFK Assassination Records Act of 1992. Looks like a cover sheet, routing and record sheet. And is every single one of these going to be a separate PDF? This is marked secret. Clipping not retained is what that looks like to me. Clipping not retained. Now that obviously is a sticky note, so that's not part of the original file. The attached article, which may be of interest to you, comments, this is to CI staff Birch O'Neill. The attached article, which may be of interest to you, appeared in the March 7th issue of the Italian Communist Party Weekly. The writer, called Gianfranco Corsini, has been on and off a U.S. correspondent for the Italian Communist Press. Communist Italians. Note that in the section penciled in red, rumors are referred to which suggest that it was the agency to organize the murder of President Kennedy. What? Note that in the section penciled in red, rumors are referred which suggest that it was the agency to organize the murder of President Kennedy. The Italian communists did it on the first page? All right. So that's what the first sheet looks like. Well, that's exciting. Oswald something from Reach Us. What does that say? Oswald. Anyone? Oswald from... All right. Who can read that? I don't know. So, clipping of the article, The Kennedy Murder and the Secret Services of the USA. So, this is from this person. So, they're saying, hey, this is an article. And in the article, we think that maybe they're talking about it was the communist Italians who took out JFK. So, that's just one sheet. Let's go into page 2. Let's open up page 3, 4, or all these different documents. Let's just open up a couple of these and see what is inside. So here, all right, more documents. Please assign SX number and the stuff to this person. FOIA review, June 1976. This is routing, cover sheet, IP to certain officers. June 1, 1964. Discussion between someone at the senior division and chief of staff, maybe Helsinki, concerning the timetable of Oswald's stay in Helsinki. Here's a memo for the record written by Lee H. Wigren. Looks like this was drafted June 1, 1964. At 0900 this morning, I talked with Frank Freiberg, recently returned COS Helsinki, regarding the Warren Commission inquiry concerning the timetable of Oswald's stay in Finland in October 1959. Including his contact with the Soviet consulate there. Freiberg gave me the following information. It takes 25 minutes to drive from the airport to downtown Helsinki. By taxi, it would take no more than 5 minutes to reach the Soviet consulate. The Soviet consulate probably closed at 1300 hours local time on Saturdays in 1959. Passenger lists, manifests, at the U.S. consulate in Helsinki are retained for 6 months only and then are destroyed. Mr. Robert Fulton, CIA, was U.S. consular official there at the time. A copy of the state's cable inquiry would go to the Helsinki station and they would assist in preparation of a reply. Mr. Freiberg agreed that it would be worthwhile to cable the station concerning the points not covered by state. He suggested changes incorporate into the cable that are sent to Helsinki. So that's another item. Here's another document. Looks like a very similar memo. If not, a little bit of a different memo. It might be actually the same memo. Discussion. Looks like that's a copy, so not much on that one. Here's another copy, it looks like, of the same memo. And I opened up several different things there. So here's another item. July 1964, July 9th. Memo for the record. And I have no way of knowing if this stuff has already been publicized or not. Like, is this already been released with limited redactions? Looks like more notes. It'd be very interesting to plug all this into an AI. We were talking about that this morning on the members only stream. What happens if you dump all these documents into AI and say, who killed them? All 50, 80,000 pages. Here's one. American clergymen, American tourists, Iranian returnees, Swedish students. Looks like a log. Foreigner left with Soviet people. So tracking some individuals, tracking some movements maybe. Soviet spouses. In 3 cases, there was a lapse of several months between the Soviet exit visa. In another case, the Western husband was reluctant to leave the USSR without his Soviet wife. He did some 6 months after the wedding only because the Soviet authorities told him that her exit application could not be processed. Is the murderer on this list somewhere? So paragraph 6 of our memo saying, at the time that Lee Harvey Oswald and M. Oswald left Russia for the United States, was it legal and normal under Soviet law and practice for a Russian national married to an American to be able to accompany him back to his homeland? Interesting. Was the rapidity with which Lee Harvey Oswald was able to accomplish this and Marina's return in any way unusual? Was a question. Our reply addressed itself to the legality and the normality of Soviet citizens accompanying foreign spouses out of the USSR. It was based on a review of 26 cases, of which 10 were involving Americans, and only 4 of those 26 cases did the Soviet wife leave the Soviet Union in the company of her husband. In one of those 4 cases, an Italian Communist Party member was married in the USSR, and there were trips. So travel patterns are being studied. Here are notes that are being dropped. Paragraph 7, the information. All right, so we get the gist of this document. Lots of notes in here about travel and a lot more. Folders not checked. The Italians. Did the Italians do it? Oh, great. So that was another one. Let's see what this one looks like. Classified message. Adult. Okay. This thing traces this person, Joachim Joester, to Cologne. Her entire adult career, an author, 30 books, numerous articles, post-World War II works, anti-Kubark. Last OK title, Oswald. Assassin or Fall Guy. Has written under the pen name another pseudonym. So this looks like it's a 1976 thing. People are they're like studying the people who were trying to investigate the assassination. Not that interesting. All right. Here's another cover sheet. Name check and consolidation request. Check this person, they write. Roman Fedorovich or Vilasa Nikolavina Dedkov. USSR citizens. Here's what they're asking. 1. Roman Fedorovich Dedkov, born 1927 in the USSR, and his wife, Vilasa Nolkayevna Dedkov. They were born 1930 in Minsk. Listed as applicants for entry visas into India. Dedkov was issued a Soviet passport, scheduled to arrive in New Delhi to be an English teacher. Did he actually arrive? So that's what that one looks like. Here's another one. Routing and record sheet. So looks like it's a cover sheet for like a manila folder or something, right? Like chain of custody. It goes to this guy. He gets it. He forwards it. Then he checks it in. Then he checks it out, forwarded it to another officer. So it's a cover for something. Passing it around. It's like chain of custody docs. So this is for a FOIA review for this document. And this document is about the Warren Commission. FYI, the Warren Commission and their report on the assassination of Kennedy focused on the magnitude of the problem, they write. Involved the protection of the chief executive. Now, as you know, it's our responsibility to render every support possible for the Secret Service to protect the president. The circumstances confronting the Warren Commission normally don't find their way into the public domain. Now, these include acquisition and dissemination of other items. I believe you'll be interested in the extracts and testimony from the Warren Commission, and that's this document. So, not much there either. All right, so that's what a smattering of page 1 looks like. Let's go to page 47, shall we? Maybe the goodness is on page 47. Boom. Let's check it out. Let's see what's there. Page 47 right here. All right. So lucky number 47. Let's check out some more documents, shall we? And we'll clean these up. And let's see what 47 has for us. Boom, boom, boom. We're going to open up these docs and see what we've got inside. So here we go. May 1959. Okay, better than 1976. This is another document, classified secret message that was sent out. Says Armand was a resident, 3-time convict, stated 2 Sicilians living in Paris, received 50 kilos of opium delivered to the States via Canada. Drugs coming in from Canada. What a surprise, huh? Shocking. 50 kilos of Hong Kong opium. Hunter Biden's having a heart attack right now. Delacour gave no other details than that the Chi-Coms provide opium for free on condition of delivery to the States. Look at that, man. It was happening back then in 1959, the Chinese. Look at this crap. Fentanyl, man, except it was opium back then. Same garbage, just different generation. When the subject asked for re-entry, They replied, $200 can get full French documentation needed for an American visa. Even back then. Delacour also uses the name Delamar, age 47, height 175 centimeters, 70 kilos, oval face, brown eyes, crooked nose, thick lips, heavy cigarette smoker. Last released from jail for theft charges. Interesting. Okay, so that was an interesting one. Let's see what else we got. Here is the next document in the list. And just looks like a checklist of some sort with some comments on this. No FBI. Referrals came up in RI. Check per this and more. So here's another. This looks like their case canceled. Like it's just like a case cover sheet. Don't know what all the acronyms mean, but here we go. A provisional operational approval is approved here. Let us know when the investigation is completed. A couple of other notes. Field traces, 5. No new information, save for local addresses. Regret the delay in determining so-and-so, both mutual friends. Determine if he has access to status documents. Subject reportedly involved in church fundraising. Spends considerable time away from home. Will advise given the most recent info. More stuff. Field traces, no new information. Those look like copies. More materials. All right, so here we go. Another routing sheet. This file contained information about subjects' requests for visas. All visas were granted. Travel was in connection with the subject's trade union work. And so it looks like just other subjects of interest, persons of interest. And that one's a bigger document. So this one's 120 pages. All right, so one file. This one's our biggest one yet, 120 pages. Secret. Talk to someone. Read this case. Hard to read. And a lot of hard to read documents. Okay, so that's that one. Let's see what else we got. More secret documents. Request station traces Albert Lorraine Mastre. DOJ advises he's a fugitive under narcotics indictment, allegedly admitted to Amcleve 15, his involvement in bombings with Rosenthal. Request the station comment Amcleve 15, ever such admission from Lorraine Mastre. No HQS traces, end of message. He did report to JM Wave, which in turn informed the FBI. FBI then approached Amcleve 15 on their own during late July 65, questioned him about a July 65 deal. Since Amclave failed to report to October 66 transaction until June 67, FBI not notified until 67. Someone was telling this guy to take the money. He kept $500. He passed to Diego 6 grenades, which passed them. They were acting as agents for Rosenthal. They made silencers. Someone else got their grenades. Then they were reported to the FBI. And this goes on for 35 pages. All right. So here's some more. Bangkok, Georgetown. Bunch of cities listed here in this secret document being reported. 2 pages. That's all we got. Fingerprint formula for James Earl. M over M, 9 over 4, U over W, O over I, O over O. Please pass to the liaison secret government code for fingerprints. Here's more. 1 page. Listing a bunch of cities, priority no night action, request addresses to construct an identikit composite of James Earl Ray for use prior receipt photos now en route. Says he's got a scar on the forehead. Left ear protrudes more than the right one. Yeah, some of us have that problem. Anyways, so that's another doc. Then we've got this one. Looks like much the same, listing some cities. All these much the same. Another manila file folder, copied. 246 pages on this document. So a lot there. Ooh, a photograph of somebody. Raul Posada. June 21, 1968. Raul Posada from the JFK files. 246 pages on this one. Are there any relatives, members of the Communist Party? It's an interview with this person. Have you ever traveled to D.C.? Yes, once several years ago. You ever been to the Soviet Union? No. Have your people, this is an interrogation, looks like, P.B. Ruman, male, 40-year-old P.B. Ruman male, been continuing WOFIRM interest since initial contact with JM Wave. Subject was SG Swear LED at the request of Caracas Station. And the interview was conducted in the home of Oscar C. in English and Spanish. And so it's another interview, it looks like. Do you have any property like bombs, demolition, or anything? He says, yeah, we got booby traps, grenades, MK2 grenades, company pencils, and all sorts of stuff. So there could be some juiciness in there. Here's one, 106 pages. More visas traveling back and forth from Miami, Caracas. And looks like much of the same type of documentation inside there. And then the final document we'll look at is this one. Classified message to the director from Havana. Nicolas Mendoza told Hava on November 17th that his brother, Ray, had not left Hava as planned. Now he plans to remain for a few more days in hope he may obtain permission from Cuba to leave legally. We'll advise. End of message. CS Common is concerned that Mendoza is coming to Miami on September 12th. So that's a little smattering of some of the JFK documents, and there are many, many more to go. So 1,100 pages just here. That is the end. Here's the final document in the record. So we looked at the first. Here's the end. March 2016. This one's stamped. Also stamped 1998, a date of this one. JFK Assassination System ID form. And they're releasing this one from 1998 is when that was stamped here, back from 1963. Okay, so that was the original document. Actions against U.S. targets in Cuba. Sabotage, bombings, harassment of Guantanamo. Hot pursuit, 18 pages here. So it's going to take some scrutiny, some analyzing of the documents. Pam said about 80,000 pages, of course. We'll see what the internet is able to parse together and see whether some of these AI systems can connect the dots, and we'll keep our eye on this one. All right, so that just dropped, and that's fun. Hopefully we get some answers on it soon. But we got one final story on the day, my friends, and then we'll hear from you. We got Fani. Fani Willis has to pay big time. Can't be happy about that. Congrats to Ashley Merchant. We've covered her work for quite a while when covering the Fani saga. She says, we're proud to have this victory. We've got judges in Georgia who are willing to hold people in power accountable when they ignore the law. And Fani Willis owes some money. Maybe she can get it from under her mattress in between her cruises. But here is what the judge wrote out of the Superior Court of Fulton County, state of Georgia. You can see the Merchant law firm was suing, and we covered a little bit of this. This was the aftermath, right? Fani has already been removed from the Georgia prosecution. That case is pretty much dead in the water at this point. On appeal from Fani, and she's not looking good. But Merchant was going after additional records to say, what was Fani doing specifically with the J6 committee and the collusion that we know was happening behind the scenes between her office and Kamala and Cheney and the rest of them. So there was a lawsuit for records, and the judge has just come down and issued this order, and Fani is not going to be happy when she gets the bill. The judge writes, having considered all of the evidence at the hearing and being aware of everything that has come before me up until this point, here's what we're finding. First of all, Fani is subject to the Open Records Act. If somebody submits a request for records, she's got to provide them. She is the elected Fani of Georgia, the elected DA. She is the ultimate custodian of their public records. Now, they have never asserted that what they were seeking in terms of these records were exempted or that they were not public records at all. So since she is the chief custodian under the law, and since they are public records under the law, she had no basis to reject them or to deny them to Ashley Merchant. The only remaining issue was whether they complied with the obligations under the rules. The judge says, here's how it works. When they submit a request, within 3 days, the custodian must produce or give a reason as to why they're not producing the records within 3 days. If not, they've got to notify them why they won't give them the records. Otherwise, there's a violation of the law. It's that simple. Now, although substantial justification is used in many portions of the code, it is vexatious. Now, in response to some of these, it means frivolous or vexatious in that section where it's used elsewhere. Now, in response to some of these requests, right, Ashley's filing requests, Fani acknowledged their receipt of the requests, but there is no dispute that Fani did not advise Ashley within 3 days about the records. So they failed to comply. That's it. Now, based on the evidence offered at the hearing and the record as a whole, Fani's failure to comply was not substantially justified at all. And so Ashley and the plaintiffs are entitled to attorney's fees and litigation expenses. Fani's got to pay. Now, as noted during the hearing, Fani, through the open records custodian Dexter Bond, that very obnoxious dude who came in there, was like, blah, 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 were openly hostile to counsel for plaintiff, Miss Merchant, and testified that Merchant's requests were handled differently than other requests because Ashley has been a thorn in their side for a long time. For example, Mr. Dexter indicated that he refused to communicate by telephone with Ashley Merchant, despite testifying that his usual practice is just to call. Now, while there's no requirement for Bond to call Merchant, his handling of her requests indicate a lack of good faith. The evidence at the hearing also demonstrated that Bond failed to produce or even meaningfully inquire about numerous non-disclosure agreements based on his unnecessarily limited interpretation of the request. After Dexter Bond consulted with Fani's lawyers, Bond understood the request to include confidentiality agreements, and later an office-wide email was sent and numerous other agreements were identified and produced. Bond also testified he did not conduct any searches or make any other meaningful efforts, claiming that he did not know what the request sought and that there were no searches to perform. So the judge writes, listen, considering Bond's testimony and the record as a whole, Fani acted without substantial justification under Georgia law, didn't comply with the records law, and her failures from Fani were intentional. They were not done in good faith, and they were groundless and vexatious. And so, because Fani lacked substantial justification for failing to comply with this, Ashley and the plaintiffs are entitled to attorney's fees and litigation expenses. At the hearing, plaintiff offered Ashley and her client, without objection, testimony of affidavits of Miss Merchant, Mr. Merchant, their paralegal, Sierra Bergdorf. What's up, Sierra? In addition to itemized records of the work performed and affidavits as to each employment and their background and experience. They say, hey, we're good lawyers, man. They charged an hourly rate of $300 an hour for work performed by each attorney and $60 for work performed by Bergdorf. And those are very reasonable for these lawyers, okay? Like, very reasonable. Should be a lot more than that. But in total, like, they're being very nice about this. Total fees of $54,000 based on Ashley Merchant's 80 hours of work and Mr. Merchant's 90 hours of work and Bergdorf's 65 hours of paralegal work, all supported by their timesheets. Now, they also provided without objection its expense summary, the associated receipts for filing, mailing, postage, and more. Another $1,300 there. And so the judge says these are reasonable, these are necessary, and these are justified. And so accordingly, the court awards plaintiffs fees in the amount of $54,000. coming out of Fani's Fanny. Now, having found that the records requested are public records, they're not subject to an exception, Fani is also required to produce the documents. So she's got to pay and deliver the documents. A copy of the NDA confidentiality agreement that employees are required to sign in Fani land, a list of attorneys that were hired by Fani, and the request of all attorneys with names and dates of hiring since Fani got in there, right? Because attorneys have changed. Remember whatever happened to Anna Cross. While the ORA does not require defendants to create documents that do not exist, it cannot reasonably be believed that Fani doesn't have the requested information in some form, even electronically. They also want purchasing records and from the DA's office from 2021 all the way to the time of the request. Any payments, hiring, promotional materials, rebranding materials, and anything. Because Madam DA Fani, many suspect, are probably misappropriating those funds for her little Fani victory parties. So, in conclusion, the court hereby enters final judgment in favor of Ashley Merchant and the plaintiffs and against Faniland and orders the following. No later than 30 days from the entry of this order, Fani shall file a notice of compliance saying, you have delivered the emails, you have delivered the records, you have searched and provided them. All materials must be provided without alteration, deletion, or modification in any form, explaining in detail efforts undertaken to locate responsive documents and detailing searches conducted as more and more. And also, Fani must deliver to plaintiff $54,000, $103.23, preferably in cash, to Ashley. Plaintiff shall be entitled to collect post-judgment interest. If you're delayed, you're going to add interest to that, Fani. And if you fail to comply with any of the terms, there will be additional fees incurred. The court retains jurisdiction, and you are busted. Signed by the Honorable Rachel Krause. Delivering a $54,000 expenditure to Fani's office. I wonder if the people of Georgia are okay with that. I mean, they were already okay with Fani grifting $700,000 for her lover, Nathan Wade, who she was indicting and text messaging at all hours of the night, and having 2-hour lunch meetings with him to work on the case. Gross. During the work days, we saw her calendar, if you remember. But now she can go into her mattress, drag out $54,000 in cash like her daddy taught her to do, and give it to Ashley Merchant. All right, my friends. Well, it has been a beautiful stream. If you're just joining us, what a pleasant surprise. We got the JFK files delivered. At the start of the show, your boy was getting a little bit nervous and unhappy, but they did deliver. So we'll see what is in those documents. We spent a little bit of time going through them, but obviously there's a lot there. So we covered that. JFK files. We talked about Boasberg and impeachment. We talked about Judge Chuang, who is ordering USAID to come back and be recreated because he's the judge now. We talked about whiny Judge Roberts, who is lecturing the executive branch because the judiciary can't keep its house in order and keep its judges in alignment. And of course, we talked about Faniland and how she owes 50 G's over to Ashley. Sweet. But now, my friends, it's time to hear from you. And let's see what you say about all of this. Happy Tuesday. I hope that your week is unfolding beautifully and you're accomplishing all the things you set your mind to today and tomorrow and the rest of the week. Let's see who's here and joining us on the day. Thanks for the super chats, my friends. Thanks for becoming membos. Thanks for supporting our work. We had a great membos stream this morning and amazing times together. Now, we had a couple missed donos from this morning. Pff, what a doofus, Rob. All right, sorry about this, guys. Wayne, I goofed this morning. Old lady, I missed all these this morning. Ugh, what a doof. All right, Wayne was here. Hey, we as citizens must answer the question, have you ever renounced your American citizenship on passport and firearm applications? Why the uproar over removal of green card holders who have rallied against the USA? Well, I think it's the liberals looking for a cause that they can latch onto that will provide them some electoral benefit. So they've shifted now, right? There's a big contingent of the Democratic Party that is very pro-Palestine, and this is their cause du jour, right? There's a huge contingent of that party that's their cause du jour, which is kind of the issue with the Democrats. They've got many cause du jours, depending on whatever constituency you ask in that conglomerate. But that's just one current domain who's very, animated about it, and which is why I think it's a good political case to dig their heels in on from the Trump perspective, because it is ridiculous. They fight for foreign criminals, but want to prosecute domestic citizens, right? It's very, very strange folks. But that's why we call them the gangbang lawyers. Old lady, Roberts the man who wouldn't let Trump put his hand on the Bible. From old lady. Chief Justice John Roberts, he did that? That's interesting, old lady. I wasn't familiar with that one. But thank you for the dono, old lady, and thanks for being an amazing membo. Bruce Rice Baby. Thank you, Bruce. What's up? Thank you for being you with a mirror. Thank you for being you, Bruce Rice, and for being a membo and for supporting us. Hey, what's going on? We missed some donos. Thank you, Donut, for reminding your boy what a goof we were this morning. Hey, Brian Hinkle says, these judges are nuts. It's true. Good to see you, Brian. Thank you for that one. It is true. Thanks for being a membo. Travel agent Amy on locals. I'm not tired of winning. MAGA travel agent, LOL. 2 months of more good news than bad news. What a great change. Yeah, and so shout out to our travel agent friend, Amy. A MAGA travel agent. Going to get you there ahead of schedule and under budget. Right on schedule. You don't really want to be too far ahead, but you get the point. She's amazing. Thank you, travel agent Amy, for being a member on locals and for supporting us. Tanya Karras is in the house. What's up? Tanya Karras says, happy Taco Tuesday. It is going to be a beautiful Taco Tuesday. Oh, look what we're having today. Blue cheeseburgers, baked Parmesan, baby taters. Oh, man. Coleslaw and peach pie. Let's get these judges under control. With a meal like that, we're going to be ready to do it. And cheeseburgers, you could kind of eat like a taco, so it counts for Taco Tuesday. It's just like a shell. Just kind of mash it together at the bottom and turn your head sideways, and you're good. Tanya, thank you for that. Thanks for the nice dono. That sounds like a great meal. Baked Parmesan, baby taters. I'm hungry. Ben Cheevers. What's up, Ben? Thank you for becoming a member. We'll see you in the morning. Trumpinator is joining us. Says, I like you so much that I just made my gift membership permanent. Trumpinator. Thanks for joining in. People are so generous here. They gift out membos. And some people stick around after the membership, but some people don't. They're like, well, that was an interesting experience, but I don't need to come back to that. But Trumpinator, thank you for making the other smarter decision. Hey, Gene Crane, could you do a quick video on what the Convention of the States is and what it means, please? Probably won't do a whole video on it, but a Convention of the States would be an alternative method of amending the Constitution, ultimately, right? Changing the Constitution. So in the Constitution, there's a mechanism by which you amend the Constitution, and the Convention of the States is in there. So in other words, if Congress doesn't want to take action on amending something, there is a mechanism in the Constitution by which you can bypass the Congress. The states just get together and just say, listen, our elected officials are corrupt. The federal government is useless. So we're just going to convene ourselves and pass legislation. And that's essentially what it is. Thank you, Gene, for the great question. Chubby, what's up, Chubby? I know they're trying to let these BS rulings by these low-level judges self-correct through the judicial system in order to create a solid legal precedent, but Roberts has no grounds to criticize anything Trump or anyone else says about any of these activist judges because he and SCOTUS are adding to the frustration by choosing not to put a stop to the blatant overreacting and giving a well-needed and deserved smackdown to them. I'm trying to stay positive, but it really makes my blood boil daily. You're right about it, Chubby. It is egregious what's happening. And it really is offensive if you care about the justice system and the American process, right? These people are like, with the same people screeching about insurrection and the will of America and democracy and all this. And they're like, well, one judge from Maryland can control the entire country as it relates to this issue. Because it's only one issue. It's only immigration, or it's only USAID. So we've got this constituent of Democrat judges who are controlling policy across the country. It's infuriating. And Roberts, you're exactly right. Hey, man, don't talk crap until you have your house in order, all right? Otherwise, Trump and Congress are both perfectly within their purview to defund you or to eliminate the jurisdiction or to impeach your booties. Buddy Bear, what's up, Buddy Bear? Thank you for that. Appreciate you becoming a member. We'll see you in the morning. Actually, show note, tomorrow morning, we're not going to have a members only stream. I apologize for that. Your boy going to the dentist. Ugh. So tomorrow morning, there will not be a member stream. Tomorrow's Wednesday. So I apologize for that. But membos, grab this morning's stream. We'll see you back in the Thursday morning stream when we're back. Forgot to mention that. Hey, Hans, what's up, Hans? Notice who is not a party to the lawsuit, USAID or the Secretary of State. Yeah, they're going after Doge. And then one judge stops the entire administration, people who are not even sued. Great comment. Gloria B, gifting one membo. RM is coming in. Thank you, Gloria B, for bringing in our new friends. Ken 1362 says Trump fired the National Archivist. Yeah, and I think I saw that. Yeah, I think I saw that. Is that right? Was that a new one today? Maybe it's a new one today. Massage Girl. The fact that courts are overstepping so hard here shows how disgustingly corrupt they have become. Yeah, and these like Chung and Ali and Boasberg and the rest of them, they're Democrat operatives masquerading as judges. They put on a robe and they say, you have to treat me like I'm impartial. They're not. Big Balls Doge. What's up, Big Balls Doge? Hey, best show on the internet. I don't know. We try to be. Thanks, Rob, for all you do. Thank you, Big Balls Doge, for that. It's a ringing endorsement from Big Balls Doge. Best show on the internet. It's a good one. Hey, Glocky, the former head of the FTC is big mad that they got fired. I am the commissioner of the FTC. The president just illegally fired me. This is corruption, plain and simple. Here's my full statement. Alvaro Bedoya. Yeah, okay. It's illegal to get to fire you. That's how much of a public servant that guy is. Okay, here's another one from Glocky. When Schumer violently threatens the Supreme Court, here's their reaction. When Trump criticizes a rogue judge on Truth Social, Democrat hysterics are activated. White Buffalo, what's up? 10 months as a membo. Oh, yeah. So, oh, God, getting called out here. He's like, hey, 10 months. I've had a child for a month. Your child support is still not here. Don't be something. And probably can't afford a longer message because there's no child support, which works out for me because blasting me for not paying child support. So anyways, working out. Don Goff, what's up? White Buffalo, thanks for being a member, my friend. Don Goff, we have to be careful not to undermine the system. Yeah, I guess you mean worse than the Supreme Court is? We'll try not to do that. Thank you, Don Goff, for being here for 13 months as a member. A baker's dozen. Glocky, USAID was not created by Congress, okay? It was created by executive order under JFK. Chubby's here, says, I can't be alone in not understanding how, when I voted for Trump in 2024 in the presidential election when he won by a landslide, how I somehow ended up voting for and electing all these low-level federal judges to actually run the country. Did I miss some small print somewhere on my ballot and the Constitution? No, I don't think so. I didn't see it either. John Roberts might think it's there, but hopefully someone educates him and shows him it's not there. Hold me tighter. Joining as a supporter. Good to see you. Hold me tighter in the house. Great to have you aboard. Will Crump. At what point does SCOTUS step in and stop this judicial coup against our country? I don't know. I mean, I guess John Roberts, whenever he feels his credibility is on the brink, he'll maybe step in and do something about it, but they've been slow thus far. FD Man 12 over on Rumble. What's up, FD Man? I am a god with this black robe on, says Judge Crazy Eyes. Why do these leftists all have crazy ex-girlfriend eyes ready to boil your rabbit in a pot in the backyard? It's a great question, FD man. I don't know if it's genetics or if it is some sort of nature or nurture situation. Maybe it's a nurture situation. Maybe if you listen to enough Kamala Harris, for example, or enough Hillary Clinton, do your eyes just like go crossed? Do they just spaz out? I don't know. Who knows? Triggered Harambe. Rob, this judge says the acting head of USAID called Rubio needs to sign off, but didn't Rubio already sign an affidavit that said I personally signed off on these? Yeah, he did. We read through the documents right here on screen. And then USAID judge Omar Ali then kind of walked it back once he realized. Object Class Keeter, what's up? Says, okay, so you can call POTUS a fascist, you can call him illegitimate, etc. But God forbid you criticize USAID. I know, there was a whole section in that order. Judge whining about their offended reputations. Give me a break. Honestly pathetic. So the First Amendment for them, but not for us. Gotcha. Public service, you should expect criticism. If not, don't join the government. Like the president has to get in there and talk like everyone in the government is amazing. It's so pathetic. All these people have been so coddled. It is a joy to have them experience a dose of reality. Runnmead. A pattern is emerging in the inferior courts violating U.S. law, including but not limited to ex parte communications, talking with the other side without communicating to the other side, failure to follow the law, patterns of discrimination against Trump, harassment, unethical misconduct, bias, effectively engaged in conduct prejudicial to the effective and expeditious administration of the court's business. Yeah, good stuff from Runnmead. And I think that's sort of what Branca's talking about. Doesn't have to reach the level of impeachment, but less than that is good. Unicorn Monster B. Man, shout out to Elon for rescuing them. Yeah, that was awesome. That was very cool. And I was watching some of it last night on live stream when they were separating or actually getting in. Yeah. Schlista. Instead of impeaching them, which requires 2/3 vote, just reform the judiciary. Get rid of the D.C. Circuit Court. Move their cases to the 4th Circuit Court and fire all the judges. I'm in favor of that. The D.C. Circuit should absolutely just get rid of it. Would never happen because they all came up through there, right? Roberts came up through there. Kavanaugh came up through there. Many do. Rob, what's up? Daffy said this yesterday. Yesterday, you said I could be president tomorrow. Bugs. Oh, Daffy and Bugs. Bugs, fine. What? Right, but today isn't tomorrow, is it? Daffy, your doggone tooth. It isn't. Remember, today is today, and tomorrow is a question. Sheesh. From Rob. Rob, MAGA Michigan Patriot, says, wouldn't Judge Boasberg's ruling the borderline be giving aid and comfort to our enemies? The practical effect of that certainly seems to be true. And he didn't even consider the government's position, just granted it. They're like spring loaded to stop Trump. That's how much they hate the guy and America. FD Man says another line that should have been in there is, quote, in doing the above, he displayed his allegiance to a designated terrorist organization over the security of the United States of America. Amazing. Yeah, that would be a good line to add. And maybe that will be pursued. Hey, Jennifer, off-label podcast tonight, my friend. So check it out. After this show is over, you're going to want to go check out the Voice of the People show with Voice of the People on off-label podcasts. I don't know if Jennifer's going to be over there today or what's going on, but it's going to be a great stream. Have a great stream and check it out. Will Crump, I am terrified that SCOTUS is going to stand by and let these activist judges run the country for the president's administration. Roberts and Barrett are useless. Well, yeah, then Trump might just do it. And the court can do whatever they want. They can, impeach him or, whatever. The court won't impeach him, but, John Roberts could go sit in judgment of the trial. We'll see what happens. Yeah, I think that the court will ultimately come down and calm this down, but they're allowing the damage to be done, probably intentionally. Tina J. Dallas. Hey, where is Colorado and New Mexico? California and Arizona, whose borders were totally ignored these last 4 years. They should be joining this appeal. Yeah, well, unfortunately, our states were invaded. And then our elections were rigged. And we got a bunch of blue maniacs in charge of everything in Arizona and those states. So, yeah, it'd be nice. Hopefully, we can get that fixed. Rob MAGA Michigan Patriot says, how about I'm sorry, Your Honor? That's classified. No information for you. Richard, 16 months as a membo. Thank you, Richard. I think I saw your message come in, and that keyed me off on this. So JFK files are out and on the National Archives, FYI. Thank you, Richard. Thanks for being a membo and for flagging it. Hey, FD Man says, you know what's messed up is that Roberts and Barrett could have put a stop to all of this a couple of weeks ago. It's really stupid. These overeducated wannabe gods in black robes. Yeah. I'm not real sure what they're waiting on. I think as these impeachment calls rise, their credibility falls. So they should do something. It's not good. Bobsco, hey, thanks for bringing in Paula. Paula, welcome aboard. We'll see you back on the Membo stream. Bonnie, what I haven't seen in a sense document, just how bad they are, including the memo from Homeland Security last July to police departments warning. Yeah, Venezuelan gang gives green light to members to take out cops, and even Homeland Security's warning about that. Wow. Well, maybe this judge can talk to them and reform them. They should send them back to his house or to his neighborhood. Like they should set up a detention center in the cul-de-sac right out front of the judge's house and just say, oh, no, here's Tren de Aragua. We're going to put them up here. They're going to be landscapers now for you, Judge. Hey, Schlista, defying a liberal activist judge to deport criminals. Democrats hate it. Defying the Supreme Court to buy votes with student loan bailouts. They love it. Hey, it's a great one from Schlista. Good to see you, Schlista. Hey, Lou Landry. Hey, thank you, Lou, for hanging with us, my man. 4 hours. Thank you for that. Really awesome to hang with you. That's morning stream and PM stream. Great times to spend together. We're going through history. Thanks, man, for supporting us. Thanks, Lou. We appreciate you. We appreciate you, Lou. What's up? Rub some dirt on it. Says, I'm glad the JFK drops. Okay, Rob, start reading. We're ready. All right, we got through. We only have 1,320 to go. So I guess we'll pick back up tomorrow. See you back here. Thank you, Rub some dirt on it. At least we got them. Hey, Nathan. Hey, Rob, thanks for covering the JFK files. We covered some of them. There will be more, I'm sure. We'll see. I think I'm most interested to see what the people who are experts on JFK say, right? The people who've been studying this for 40 years. Like, what do they say about all this? That'll be fun. Hey, Pinochet's helicopter tours. And Nathan, thanks for being here for 7 months. We appreciate it. Pinochet's helicopter tours. Rob, when you are on a government list, you have a flag on your file with the FBI. If the president comes to town, you are accounted for. Oswald had that flag on his file, was removed weeks prior. From Pinochet's helicopter tours, the most exciting tour you've ever been on. Hey, Elena, what's up? AKA Neely. Bringing in 5 new membos. We got Menza Barbie. Wow. Menza Barbie. We got TG. Love all. We got Jan Monroe and Johnny Tambourine. Gifted membos courtesy of Elena, AKA Neely in the house. Thank you, Elena, for bringing in 5 new membo friends. This one came in from Mr. Mike. Mr. Mike. What's up, Mr. Mike? Says, Rob, Encryptus over at vivabarneslaw.locals.com, as Robert Barnes would say, is building us a JFK Docs AI. It's called Ping Vives. Amazing. Yeah, that's amazing. I figured somebody would be doing that or assembling that. So, of course, check out our friends, vivabarneslaw.locals.com, and their amazing work. Hey, Pinochet says Oswald's favorite TV show was I Led 3 Lives, 1954. In Marines, he ran radar in Japan. Mid-50s Japan, only thing there was secret CIA U-2 flights. It's believed he was a false defector. KGB stuck him in Minsk. Wow. Yeah, good details there. So hopefully we come back tomorrow and the whole thing's figured out now that everybody has the docs. Leonard, the corrupt media ignores the fact that millions of crimes were committed when millions of illegals entered the U.S. No, Leonard, they're here just to grow your crops, obviously. How could you be such a bigot? They're all here just to grow your food for you. Obviously, that's sarcasm. FD, there is nothing new under the sun, Rob. It says that in the Bible. Let the researchers who have been on this case for the last 62 years, they have names and leads on this subject. Oh, yeah, no, we will. We're going to obviously let the experts do their digging and lean on them for their expertise. FD, I'm sure Oliver Stone will make another movie using this info. Says there will be a new addition to many books over this info drop too. Yeah, we're excited about it. And this morning we were explaining, want to see what, like, of the pie chart of all the JFK universe, what portion of this is this release? What portion of that is this release? Is it 20%? 60%? Is there anything left? AOC's mind map, not very big, says follow the money, audit the judges. Impeachment will not work. I think that is true too. I think impeachment is going to be a tall order, but even the process of bringing the impeachment might shake some of those judges into constitutional order. Knox Bierman, what's up? Defense attorney in Texas, says, happy Tuesday, y'all. Anyone who doesn't look at discovery packets all day is going to be disappointed with the JFK drop. However, those of us who do know there is gold in those pages, in those drab, hard to read pages. Yeah, it's right, Knox. It's going to be a slog to go through them. But yeah, you're looking for those little nuances. What makes these things hard to also assemble is context. It's like, it's almost like a discombobulated document drop. Like they just had a ton of documents. They just scan them and just dump them. It's like, could you organize those into tabs for us? Like, is this organized by decade? Like, when we create our legal files, you'll put like the blood work in the blood work section, right? You'll put the police report in the police report section, or you put your motions in the motions section. This is just like everything all into one. You have no idea what it is. So it's hard to create context in a document drop like this, but more will be revealed, and I'm excited to see what everyone comes up with. Pinochet. Rob, if I may, could I recommend a documentary? Please. I watched this on Prime. It's called The Assassination and Mrs. Payne. It will help uncloud some things. Says CIA, USAID, JFK, Oswald, Dulles, MA, Forbes, etc. The Assassination and Mrs. Payne. I've not heard of it. I love documents that tell me more about all of the behind the scenes stuff. So thanks for the recommendation, Pinochet. JR, welcome, JR. Just became a membo. Christine Moore just became a membo. Welcome aboard, Christine. Grab the stream from this morning. We had fun this morning. Jigam says, okay, the jurors are deliberating on this so late to the trial. But the trial for Amy Bach, the executive director of the nonprofit called Feeding Our Future, and Mr. Salim said, looks very interesting. Maybe we cover this one? Attorneys are giving closing arguments in the Feeding Our Future fraud trial. Interesting. I have not seen this one. Thank you, Jigam, for flagging it for us. And thank you for sharing that very ninja baby. I think is the ninja baby, right? What's going on? Yeah, whoa. I think that's how I interpret it. I think some other people interpret it as like oh, it's very interesting. Oh, from the baby also. FD Man says, hey, Khan to Kirk, you hand over to me all data and material regarding the project called Genesis, from Khan to Kirk. Hey, what's up? C. Beck says, hey, what's up, Rob? Just a good old trucker. The suit I wear for church security could be misleading. Man, we love our truckers here. Shout out to our truckers. When I practice, I used to represent a lot of truckers because in Arizona, and I don't know how it is in other states, but in Arizona, most trucking violations are automatic class 1 misdemeanors, which is the same as a DUI. It's like very serious. Massive amounts of points, not only in Arizona, but on your driver records for our truck drivers. And I'm trying to think of the ones that we would get in Arizona the most. We had cops that would hang out really on the I-40 in between Seligman. One cop, I can't stand the dude. He would sit over overpasses and just look. They would set up these things where they would look into the hoods of truck drivers and then phone in the stops, down the line. Truck drivers would get pulled over for all sorts of just made up stuff and get picked on in Arizona. So shout out to our truck drivers. We appreciate them. What's up? And thanks for being a membo and supporting us. Seebeck in the house. Adesia. Hey, Rob will read them all for us. We made a dent in those JFK files. We did a dent here. Uncle Bozy. I wouldn't want any cash that came out of Fanny's mattress. You're right about that. You have to put it in the washing machine or something first. Glocky, it never ends with these judges. Here's another one. Oh, Anna Reyes. She blocks Trump's transgender military ban. Yeah. And friends of the show reminded me that I think she's also from some other foreign land, not from the United States, from some South American country or something. FD Man says, Rob, watch the inauguration again. Roberts started the oath of office before Melania could get up with the Bibles for Trump to put his hand on. You made a comment about it, remember? Yeah, I didn't remember that. So that happened at the inauguration. We had a lot of stuff going on at the inauguration. We were celebrating and partying our little brains off. So I missed that. Thanks for reminding us. Pinochet from John Roberts, July 1st, 2012. It's not our job to protect the people from the consequences of their political choices. Exactly right. Exactly right. Judges might not like that thousands of people are being fired, but that's the decision of the country. And you're not elected. The president has the power to do these things. And the judges are insurrecting America. Real with Robo says, can we protest SCOTUS to make them do their job? Probably not. The Democrats tried that. They were committing ongoing felonies by protesting outside their homes. So I would say not a good idea to go protest outside their homes. It's not lawful. So better thing to do is to just speak out, keep the pressure on the courts, because like anybody, they're also political. Roberts and Barrett, they're in their little DC bubble, and Roberts was a Federalist guy and a DC Circuit guy. So he's embedded. And FD Man says, Kirk to Khan, file a FOIA. Kirk to Khan, file a FOIA. Oh, it's a Star Trek reference. I see. File the FOIAs. Right? Scotty's like, I can't, Captain. It's a big thing. So I get it. Thank you, FD Man. All right, my friends, let's say hello to our friends on X. Then we're going over to Locals, watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We're going to have our members only after party over there. We would love to have you come and join us. And we'll see you over there. On X, what's up? Mini Tika in the house. What's up, Mini Tika? Saying the crew is safe and sound on Earth. Meanwhile, we're dealing with shenanigans from these judges. What's up, James Pepper? Says that Trump needs to pack the Supreme Court. Yeah, remember the switch in time that saved 9 back during FDR's reign that changed the Commerce Clause regulation from the Supreme Court into what it is now, a disgusting perversion of the Constitution? They didn't like that. The country didn't like that when FDR did it, but it may have ultimately resulted in the judges granting FDR everything he wanted. So, right, it might be a political loss, but would that threat shift Amy Coney Barrett or Roberts back into it? I don't think so. Back onto the right? I don't think so. Fred, hey, we didn't do anything to JFK. We didn't do anything, says Fred. From Fred. Thank you, Fred. That's true. Danny, it's out. I want the second gunman on the grassy knoll. Good to see you. James Pepper. Jarvangus is us waiting for checks and balances from the judiciary. It's a scene from Beetlejuice. Diane, what's up? Says, awesome to get the files. Thanks to everyone. Tomorrow. Good to see you, Diane. All right, what's up? TJ King says, if Robert starts wagging fingers at Trump, wouldn't it be ironic when Rand Paul was referring indirectly to whistleblowers, they warned him to stop as well. Good to see you, Crypto Nerd. What's up, Experience? And Elliot is in the house. Elliot, my friends, make sure you're giving Elliot a follow. Elliot shared this and says, also, under court's reasoning, Musk can't reinstate because then he would be exercising functions reserved for an officer of the United States. That's a great point from Margot Cleveland. Musk can't do anything because he's not lawfully appointed, so he can't comply with your order. That's very fun. And this one came in from Jay Lou on Rumble. Says, I'm a 38-year federal treasury retiree. At no time in my career did any of the federal section unions ever stick up or advocate for probationary employees. Not once, not once. And Bonnie got this one. Said a judge just issued a preliminary injunction in favor of the trans activist on the ban of trans, said they had to go back to pre-Trump policies. So the trans are coming back too. USAID is coming back. Trans are coming back. Terrorists are coming back. Democrats are back in charge. They're making America terrible again. Isn't that fun from the Democrats? All right. So my friends, thank you so much for being here. We are going to wrap it up on the day. We're heading over to Locals, watchingthewatchers.locals.com to hang out with our Locals friends. We're going to debrief and hang out a little bit. Membos, we won't have a stream tomorrow morning, but we will be back for a full stream tomorrow afternoon, and then we'll be back on the regular schedule Thursday and Friday. So the rest of the week will be on track. But my friends, we're going to leave it there on the day. Of course, we're coming back tomorrow to get into it again. We want to thank our amazing mods and meme smiths, K Bean, Donut Mind Me, Carrie B, Playin' Hooky, Dog Digger, Janek, Elliot, our Dockmaster, Gigum, our meme smith, Just Rhonda, our purveyor of fine emojis. We appreciate everybody who helps make this show what it is. We're grateful for you, but we will leave it there on the night. And so we're coming back tomorrow, my friends, to get into it again. And in order to do that appropriately, we're going to need to see you right back here so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a great night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.